an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Veronica Mars, Season 2, Episode 6, Rat Saw God. In this episode, I still haven't entirely put together why this episode is called that, but we get some players that I really thought were off the board entirely, suddenly being circulated back in. And this complicates the entire mess. I have no idea what to think now. I didn't really before, to be fair, but even less now. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Many thanks to Jacqui for commissioning this episode. And I believe that Jacqui also commissioned a live watch of the next episode, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. A live watch of Season 2, Episode 7, which will be taking place, for those interested, on Tuesday, April 9th at 3:15 Central Time. Remember, it's Central Time, all of you out there. So yeah, I will be live watching Season 2, Episode 7. I am very cranky that I don't get to watch it right away, but I guess I'll deal with it. So yeah, thank you very much to Jacqui for all of those commissions. I am always, as much as I gripe about not being able to watch the next episode right away, when I see that somebody has commissioned a live watch of something, I'm always like, oh shit, it's about to go down. So I'm very curious what happens next episode that y'all want to see my reaction to. Like, it has to be something more either like dramatic or somehow shocking than this episode. And this episode was pretty shocking in a couple ways. So if this wasn't the one that you wanted me to live watch, I just am holding on to my butt for the next one. So this episode, Rat Saw God, if anybody feels like enlightening me on why it's called that, please do, starts off with Veronica watching the election results roll in for her father. Spoiler alert, he lost. Sheriff Lamb's character assassination really seemed to do the trick. Unfortunately, it's that easy sometimes. And then there are times where the thing you would think would guarantee to bring a person down just doesn't. It's the damnedest thing. And it was a pretty close call. It's not like it was a landslide or anything, but it's enough to just be disheartening when they all thought they had it in the bag. You just can never assume you have it in the bag, man. And Veronica kind of feels like, I think she feels a little disappointed in her dad, that she thinks he should have come out with the information about the bus and the tape that they have, because like her father sort of treats her saying this as if it's just, well, then you would have won. And he's like, well, it's not about who wins. That's like important information. And she's like, yes. And being a good sheriff would help get the job done. You'll notice that Sheriff Lamb is not doing that thing called being good at his job. So I appreciate that, because I do think that her dad can get a little bit caught up in like the purity of things sometimes, like the idealism. And there are really practical reasons for wanting you to be sheriff, dude. This isn't just about, like, Veronica has never been somebody who's, like, into social climbing, you know? She's dating Duncan, so I think a lot of people would think that was true of her, but Duncan's just a good guy, as we all know. Although I have some shit to say about that, and we will get there. So I just feel like her dad's not really, like, he's not giving her enough credit as to why she wants him to be sheriff so bad. It's not just because she wants, like, you to have a title to be proud of and that it's good for your fucking, like, self-esteem. It's really important to this whole deal working out. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I wish that he would have taken that all more seriously. Oh, Agnes is here saying that she doesn't have video or sound. Forgive me, everybody. I'm doing this live as usual, so I may have to take a moment here and there to just message back. But anyway, so that's what's going on. And meanwhile, Sheriff Lamb is over in his office, and he's watching the results also, feeling very satisfied with himself. When in rolls this fucking dweeb in glasses, and he is saying that he's the anonymous caller from the bridge the night that Logan, I just totally lost his name. The night that Logan was found with the knife in his hand and the body. Now, I am not super familiar with the law. I know that many, many different versions of certain laws exist, depending on what state you're in. Is there any law that would cause this particular guy to be arrested or held in like contempt? It's not contempt of court, but like, isn't that considered obstructing justice that he was anonymous? Because I just feel like if you are the witness that places him at the scene, that's pretty key. And not doing your duty is coming forward and being, if you aren't willing to like bear witness against him, at least be making yourself available for questioning seems like the minimum expectation for somebody who is going to claim that they were on site when this happened. So the fact that this dude can just sort of roll in and again say something to Lamb that causes Logan to be arrested again just feels like a real flex for no reason. You know, I just don't really know why this isn't considered suspicious by anybody. And also, I thought that you could not be charged with the same crime twice. So it looks like they're going to try and go after Logan again, but he was acquitted once. So are they just going to charge him with a different crime? Was he charged with murder and now they're going to charge him with a hate crime and that's like a different thing? I don't really understand how all that works, but this all feels like it couldn't work, you know? So, yeah, if y'all have information on that, please let me know. We go, and before he gets arrested, by the way, Logan has this encounter with Dick at the party that the mayor's daughter is throwing. Kristen Ritter, who in her like happy, bubbly role is just unrecognizable. And so, okay, guys, I've already said this, and I'm just going to say it this one time more because I feel like I have to. But after this, I'm going to let it go because I recognize that the show is really not interested in dealing with things on that level. But I can't look past the fact that both Logan and Duncan are still friends with Dick, a boy that we have seen. I was going to say a man, he's not. A boy that we have seen in more than one version of a memory, so I'm assuming that this happened, encouraging somebody to rape a girl. This is a non-negotiable. Like, either he was egging on Beaver, or it was Beaver and him egging on, what's his face, the other one. And either way, he's always one of the people in the room who like let this happen. And I just can't with the fact that they're still friends with him. And Veronica also knows this about him and doesn't seem to have any issue with Duncan being friends with him still. Like, I know that's not what this show is. Like, she is not going to have an ultimatum. That's not the way this show particularly works, but it just bothers me so much that we know this went down, and apparently we're all just going to pretend that Dick is sort of this like lovable douchebag that's just really goofy but harmless. when he's not harmless at all. And I just really have a hard time with this. So again, I will leave it alone and drop it, but it just really rubs me the wrong way that the show decided to make Dick a fixture in every version of those scenes. So we know that he was there in some capacity and was aware of what was going to happen. And we're all just supposed to forget about it, I guess. They didn't have to have him there. They didn't have to have there be anybody aware of what was going on except for the one person. And if they do have somebody there and aware of it, to not have them face any consequences at all just feels really lazy to me. And I don't like it. So I'm just going to leave it alone now. But seeing him hanging out with Duncan, it's one thing for Dick to be hanging out with Logan, because as much as I like Logan in a lot of ways, I still don't trust him. And I don't really think that Logan holds people to any kind of standard, because he is in a position right now where he's self-destructive and hanging out with garbage people. Feels on brand. But Duncan should be more discerning, and it just bums me out. Anya's is saying Sean. Is Sean the one whose dad is a butler? Because he's the one, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, I just wanted to address that because it's been bugging me a little, but it wasn't until this episode where we see him making plans to hang out with Duncan that I was really like, come on, Duncan. I don't know what Duncan knows about that night, but I wish that Veronica would talk to him about it. And in this scene, it's also pretty gross because Logan's apologizing to Dick for fucking his stepmom. And Dick is basically just well, there's been a lot of times where I've wanted to bang your mom too, so I guess it's fine. And I'm like, oh God, okay. And there's a part of me that's sort of well, I appreciate that he can just forgive and forget, but the context of the whole thing is just really meh. So he winds up getting arrested at this point, and it's really he is so over it, Logan is, with this whole mess, that he doesn't even want a real lawyer. He gets arrested, and then it's just just get me some public servant, basically, who gets paid $8 an hour or pro bono or God knows what, because this is all a big joke that I do not take seriously at all. And really, to a degree, I kind of understand why he feels this way. It does seem like all they have is a witness who is just coming forward now, after the trial is over, claiming that he saw this thing. And that's all it is this one person saying they saw something months and months later. How is this enough? How? What? I just don't understand this. And so this is when we wind up having our new buddy show up. Well, he's not new. He's the buddy that we have had helping out Veronica a couple of different times. But this lawyer, and what's his name? Eddie, I think. He is, I am hoping, going to be Logan's lawyer forever. Cliff, thank you, Agnes. Yeah. This guy's great. He embraces his own sleaziness, but not in a way that makes him yet more sleazy when I think about that sort of vibe, it's always a Better Call Saul sort of thing. He isn't like that where he's sort of, prides himself on being sleazy. It's more that he's just yeah, I'm definitely not top shelf. And I'm aware of that. It's fine. I do what I can. I'm good at the few things that I'm specialize in that are somewhat petty. And I've really made a niche for myself with that. And that is all I need. And I'm good. And despite him continually insisting that he is not cut out for this sort of trial and that Logan really should find somebody else, he does have the connection to the judge that ensures Logan is able to get out on bail when Lamb sort of ensured that wasn't going to be an option. He was trying to tell the judge that Logan was a flight risk and that he shouldn't be allowed out at all. And again, I just don't understand how this is enough to rearrest Logan. I don't understand it at all. It doesn't feel like this makes sense to me, but Logan gets put in a cell with his dad. Now, couple things. First of all, his dad gets moved out of county to here, and it's implied by his father that Sheriff Lamb did this on purpose to fuck with Logan. Now, don't get me wrong. Lamb is trash. I don't doubt for a moment that he would be petty enough to do this just for the sake of it, because he is so shitty. But I have a hard time believing that he's this, like, imaginative. And getting somebody out of county to a local lockup feels like a pretty big deal. And I just don't see how this is, like, allowed unless somebody else is pulling strings. And by somebody else, I clearly mean Aaron himself. Aaron in this scene, y'all. Oh my Lord. If he doesn't shut the fuck up. I am sick of his stupid face. I'm sick of his false, earnest voice. Like, it's just... He's still trying to blame Duncan for Lily's murder. He's still trying to act like what Veronica's dad saw was all a misunderstanding. Like, his son is that much of an idiot. And you know, like, if Logan wasn't who he is, I might be afraid that he would fall for this shit. But Logan has been knowing that his dad is abusive garbage. And Logan is one of the most cynical people in the world. So there's no chance that his dad is going to get him to believe any of this shit. But it is so pathetic to watch him go through these fucking motions like he's going to convince him of anything. And trying to be all pitiful. I guess if you don't believe me, why should a jury? Maybe my life really is over. Maybe it is, bitch. Maybe you should have thought of that before you fucked an underage girl, filmed it, and murdered her. Maybe your life should be over. Bye. Don't care. I hate you. Ugh, he's the worst. And I just thank God in some ways that Logan is as cynical as he is, that he isn't going to be like, a victim to this complete line of bullshit. But it is excruciating to sit through it. I hate it. So anyway, moving on from that, I just feel like there has to be some reason why his dad wanted to see him. I don't feel like this is Lamb. I think this is Aaron, and I don't know why. Is it just Aaron desperately trying to get a crack at Logan and trying to convince Logan to testify because he hasn't been put on trial yet, apparently? So is that all it is? Is that he's really, really trying to convince his son to testify on his behalf? Even if you hadn't murdered her, you fucked his girlfriend, dude. Like, that right there would be bad enough. And then you killed her, and then you tried to frame his best friend, and then you tried to, like, let him take the fall for it. On what planet do you think you have a shot in hell of pulling this off? It's really the audacity. Jesus, Mother Mary. I just can't. And I'm not even trying to, I'm not shit-talking the writing here at all, because there are people out there in the world like this. I mean, we've all met that person, right? Who pulls all kinds of shit and then has the nerve to, ask for a favor, and you're just like, how do you get the balls up to do this and ask me for a favor after the shit you've pulled? It's just, the kind of, lack of shame that I wish I had sometimes. And if Aaron is trying to see his son, then that means that he is getting somebody to testify against his son, or to go in and like at least pretend to be a witness against his son, just for the opportunity to talk to him, which means that basically his father is trying to frame him again. Which at this point, as outlandish as that seems, that would totally make sense to me. I would not be a bit surprised, you know, like, sure, okay, you're awful. That would really also be quite on brand. So, because I don't know why else. It's not like the PCHers don't genuinely think that Logan did this. I don't think anybody on that side is trying to set him up. They seem really pissed, and there certainly could be somebody within Weevil's group that we don't know who like killed this guy because he had a personal beef with him and then tried to frame Logan because he was right there and just an easy target. But if that's the case, I'll be a little disappointed, because at this point in the season, we haven't really met any of Weevil's friends. You know, like, there's nobody of his crew that I know by name. And that would feel like the kind of like, you know, have you ever watched like an episode of Poirot, which is a show that I love, but it's very flawed, in which you like think that you kind of have a handle on who might have done it. And then once it's revealed who did do it, there are all kinds of mitigating factors that as a viewer, you could never have known about. And so it feels like, well, I mean, this isn't even dots that I could have connected. This was a whole thing that I didn't have any connection to at all. And if it turns out it's one of those guys, that's how I'm going to feel. It's just like, well, this just feels like you just pulled something out of your ass. And I want it to be something like Aaron doing this, because we know Aaron and we understand his motivations from last season. So I would like it to be something that ties in with everything in the end. I'm trying to think if there's any reason to think that Duncan's parents are behind this. They are certainly rich and powerful enough to get Aaron out of, you know, county and to local lockup. I could see them pulling those kinds of strings. I'm not really sure why they would want to. If they blame Logan for their daughter's death as well as his father, people aren't rational. I mean, when your daughter is violently killed, I could really understand wanting to blame everybody in the family that was involved, but I just don't really know why they would blame. Like, again, it would be an irrational thing, and I'm just trying to imagine what that would look like. Like, is it just you were dating her, and if you were like better to her, she wouldn't have gotten involved with this other guy, or you should have seen what was going on? Or maybe they think that Logan knew and covered up for his dad, which anybody who knows Logan and the relationship that he has with his dad would know that is certainly not what happened. But, you know, maybe that's what they think. In which case, they're paying somebody to come forward as a witness to get him arrested yet again? Why, though? I don't know. Meanwhile, Logan finally gets let out because Cliff's a wizard. And Cliff's like, you really should get a real lawyer. And Logan's like, yeah, but why would I do that? Because you just got me on bail. Like, you're sort of doing a really good job, and maybe I'm just going to ride this out. But Logan goes home, and his fucking house is on fire. That sucks, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Logan has more money than God. He'll be fine. But, like, I just... How much can you heap on one kid? You know, this kid is going to crack, man. He's going to lose it. And he, at this point, has every right. He is just having to endure so much more than is fair. And I just really, you know, Logan can be a shit. He can be a douchebag. He can have low standards for morality and all kinds of things. But when it comes to this, it just feels like too goddamn much. Let the boy have the opportunity to learn a lesson at least before you go and add more shit to the shit pile. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, yeah, I just really like that whole scene of him coming home and finding his house burning. There's this sort of like resignation on his face that he's just like, yep, my house is on fire. That seems right. And I'm like, oh, Logan, sweetie, I'm sorry. So pretty much winds up in the hotel with, and he's not staying, correct me if I'm wrong, in Duncan's suite, right? He has his own suite, I assume. But he's definitely at least in the same hotel. And it results in a really awkward moment between him and Veronica. And I'm just like, I appreciate that him and Duncan are trying to work things out between them and be friends again. And I like that, you know, I approve of this. And I feel like that Logan needs somebody in his life of substance. And Duncan is the best candidate that I can think of from that school who could keep Logan anchored somehow when everything else is going completely out of control. But what Logan does in response to his house being burned down is so deeply gross that I have, again, a really hard time with this. The show is really good at making me go back and forth on how I feel about characters a lot. So Logan, in his infinite money and power, despite him being a fucking teenager, buys Weevil's grandma's building and serves her up with an eviction notice. I am praying that Veronica gets wind of this and talks him down, because that is the most underhanded shit. That is like so disgusting, to go after an old woman because you have a beef with her grandson. Like, dude, what are you doing? And I just want so much for him to get a slap upside the head and be reminded. And then fucking Dick, what is it, illegal to kill Mexicans now? Guys, he's a rapist and a racist. And I'm saying he's a rapist because he was clearly okay with what was going to happen. And for me, if you see that and you're just like, no, that's fine. Nope, you are also a rapist. You think that's fine? That means you would do it. That means you're a rapist. And I can't. Like, that kind of comment, I just can't get past it. And Weevil burning down his house feels like the first in... I mean, I would not be surprised if they try and kill him. Why wouldn't you? I mean, he's... it's just... He's escalating over and over again. I don't know about Weevil's gang enough to know if they, like, frequently kill. If we were dealing with a gang like his in any other context of any other show, I would assume, of course, they kill. But on this show, it feels like they posture a lot. And there's a lot of beating up, but not necessarily murder. And, you know, I'm not really sure exactly where the show is intending to take that. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious about that. And there's gotta be some sort of retribution. And what is that going to be like? He burned his house down already. Death feels like the only next step. There's no other option. What, are you going to burn his car? That doesn't really say anything more than burning his house does. So yeah, basically everybody is like just going a little bit too buck wild in this episode, and they all need to calm the fuck down, but they're not gonna. And I know that. And it just disappoints me in my heart. So yeah, that's that part of the plot. Now, let us talk about what happened with Abel Kuntz coming back into the picture. He shows up outside of the Mars office, and he is all fucked up on wine, really close to dying, and he cannot find his daughter. Now, y'all could have knocked me over with a feather. Abel Kuntz popping back up into this shit again. Really? What? but there he is. And he is basically just wanting to know that his daughter is okay before he dies, because he missed her 21st birthday. And he knows that he's, his days are numbered. He isn't going to make it to see another birthday. He isn't going to be able to be there for her in any respect besides the whole arrangement that he had with the Canes to get her a bunch of money. So Veronica, who understandably is just like, why should I help you? Because you completely covered for somebody else who had murdered my friend. He's just like, I'm literally begging you. And this is a guy on his deathbed, and she clearly takes that shit pretty seriously. So she starts to look into it and notices that her paper trail sort of dries up. And so she starts to go and find her boyfriend and roommate, college roommates and stuff, and ask them when the last time was that she saw them, all of this. And this whole thing it leads in a couple of different directions. And there's this one boyfriend apparently who went with her to Ibiza. I know some people say Ibiza. I do not say Ibiza. I will not say Ibiza. Get off my case. And he says that they were partying, and somebody dropped a bunch of foam and she just disappeared. And he's like, she bailed on me and ditched me, but she's got millions of dollars. So I guess I understand just being in the mindset of I can do whatever I want. But I couldn't help but just be like, dude, you haven't seen or heard from her since. You should be so much more worried than you are. He is really not thinking about this logically. And I appreciate that it all turns around and seems to be this one other guy and not him. But, and I don't think, I didn't even think in that scene that he was hiding anything. But the idea of being that blasé about a American woman with no protection who's got millions of dollars suddenly disappearing in a foreign country with no warning, that doesn't send off any alarm bells for you, dude? What are you doing? How is that not worrisome to you? You were dating. You were her boyfriend. How could you not know her well enough to understand how completely out of character that was for her? Because when Veronica goes and talks to this girl's friend, she knows her well enough to be going out and partying does not seem like her. That's weird. So he doesn't know her well enough to be also sort of taken aback by her wanting to do this, and taken aback by the fact that she just vanishes without a trace. Guy, where is your head at? So anyway, apparently he's just oh, she ditched me, fucking illogical creep. And this leads me to think, if her friend is so shocked that she went all the way to Ibiza to party, and that was not something that you could barely get her to party at home, never mind travel abroad for it, I have to think that she was being set up to meet somebody out there and needed a companion and didn't expect it to quite go the way that it went. That's all I can think. Unless she, had a complete personality turnaround. If this guy hadn't already known her, I would have thought maybe she was pretending to be somebody else. But Veronica has pictures of her from Ibiza. It's her. So what was she doing out there? Why this sudden rush to party when she hadn't been able to do it before? Was it because of the security of having all this money all of a sudden and not having to worry about well, if I party, I won't do well on my exams and then I won't get a good job? I can understand that sort of mindset changing once you've got the security of money behind you. You're not so concerned about your future all the time. But other than that, I feel like it would have to be something about meeting someone. And if that's the case, why wouldn't she tell him about it? And if that's not the case, then what the hell? And whomever she wound up with, it's this dude apparently who came with her to this hotel. It doesn't seem like, I mean, they were in this picture together and they seemed to be like friends, but it doesn't, I don't know enough about who he was to gauge whether they knew each other before this or what exactly happened there. If she made up a plan with this guy, did she like cheat on her boyfriend and he blackmailed her into like running off with him so that he could get more money out of her? There are so many directions that this could go in. And I have to be honest, like there was a part of me that even was wondering, what if the Canes were using her to get access to funds that they otherwise have had frozen because they're arrested and in prison right now. And they're using those funds to bankroll some of the shit that's been going on, i.e. somebody implicating Logan or a bus crash / bombing, which I don't know why they would want that. But the Canes have just been so decidedly out of the picture that I keep thinking things have to do with them, because the trial for Aaron Eccles has been front and center. And I don't know how much, I don't even want to say how much of a grudge the Canes hold against Veronica for like putting everything together, because I don't think they really do. I think the fact that she like unearthed who it really was and that it wasn't their son, in some ways they might even be like a little bit grudgingly, granted, grateful for. But it did wind up landing the two of them in prison. Do they feel like Abel Kuntz bailed on his like agreement with them and they're trying to get revenge on him? Why would they need to? He's about to die anyway. You know, like there's just, guys, I don't know. My head is spinning with this. And fucking Veronica finds this girl dead and stuffed in the ice machine at the motel. Correct me if I'm wrong. Has Veronica stumbled on a body before in this show? I don't feel like this has happened. That's a pretty big... Ugh, that's really bad. Like, and in an ice machine. Yikes. You know? Oh my God, Jesus Christ. And then, and all of this is going on, by the way, with the help of the Canes security head, whose name escapes me. He is initially the person that she goes to, because when she looks at the records of, oh my God, what is her name? I forgot both the security guy's name and Abel Kuntz's daughter's name. Amanda? His name is Goodman. Okay, thank you, Agnes. Goodman. He does not seem like a good man. Amelia, thank you. DeLongpre. For some reason I can keep DeLongpre in mind. I can't keep Amelia in mind. But yeah, so this guy, Goodman, you know, initially is like, I don't know anything about it. And Veronica can tell that he's just full of shit, but she's not going to get anything out of him. So she just goes off to continue her investigation by herself, which leads, I might add, to a pretty amusing sequence between her and the very seedy sort of like redneck purveyor of this hotel. He is quite well cast. Like, I enjoyed him a great deal. And he charges her $30 to even look in every room that she checks out. And this dude has no time for any of this. He is just here to make some money and to be a little bit of a pain in the ass. He didn't even offer initially the information that Amelia showed up at the hotel with someone. So of course, once that information gets dropped, Veronica is like soups irritated. She's like, are you kidding me? You didn't think to mention this? And he's like, well, you didn't ask. I'm like, you know what I'm about to ask? How much you enjoy getting slapped in the face. O'Leon says Clarence Weedman. Agnes, did you feed me a wrong name? Weedman. Okay, cool. So this dude is following Veronica around because why do the detective work yourself when you could just let somebody else do it and then just ride their coattails? And when she finds the body, he comes like in the room behind her and is like, I thought I told you to keep your nose out of it. Which of course leads you to think initially, oh shit, he killed her and he's mad Veronica figured it out. But I should have known this dude is a fucking professional. He's not stuffing anybody's body into an ice machine. This girl would be gone, vanished forever. The end. And a couple of minutes later, it's very clear that he's just like, yeah, I didn't think that this was how this was all going to go. But he had 2 calls from her, and one of them was to extort more money, and the other one was to pick up the money. And I think he says that she didn't show. I don't even remember what he says happened there, actually. But whatever the case, he is going to cover up the fact that they found this girl's body until they are able to control the situation a little bit better. And it's just bad publicity for somebody who was like, tied up in this whole thing to then turn up dead. Like the Canes don't already have enough problems. So let's see. Amelia in the ice machine. And then she's questioning him about everything he knows. Like she's starting to be like, my dad knows where I am. And I'm like, well, he doesn't, but okay, I understand you having to say this and handle this all. And I appreciate that he decides to treat her like a grown-up, even though she's not, because he seemed to recognize that she's at least like pretty good at what she does. So he says, I consider the matter settled until she made a call from the payphone across the street. Veronica interrupts, and he's like, no, that was the second call. The first call was to extort an additional $250,000. She got $3 million 6 months ago. Well, I gave her the money in marked bills under the condition that she disappear until the Canes' legal issues were settled. But a week after she's supposed to be on the plane, marked bills start showing up here. So that was how he figured it out, that something was going on, that she hadn't left town. Yeah, so interesting. I kind of skipped over a scene because in the end it doesn't wind up being that important. But Veronica wants to find out where the car was that she had rented, and that's how she tracks it down to the hotel. And figures out exactly, like, the way that she tracks this rental car. Is that Joss Whedon? Because that guy looked like Joss Whedon. Was that just me? AF Tana says yes. Okay. I saw his face and I was like, this guy's giving me the creeps a little bit. Who is this? Okay, so it was. Because Joss Whedon's always kind of low-key giving me the creeps. And he's just such a dick in this scene too. He plays this manager who's really easily won over by some very low level flirting from Veronica, and just, gives her information that she needs pretty quickly and easily without really thinking about how she's pushing for it. And then Veronica watches him yell at a employee, and she leaves and changes and comes back and pretends to be going through a similar thing with a similarly shitty boss in order to endear herself to the girl behind the counter, who I just really enjoyed her performance as well. The girl behind the counter who finally agrees to help her out. It was well done. I just like those little psychological moments of Veronica being like, if I pretend that I am just as harried and being ruled over by some tyrant of a boss the way that she is, she'll feel like we have something to commiserate on and that we're soul sisters or something, and she'll want to help me. So yeah, Joss Whedon, dude, what are you doing here? What a weird little moment, and what a weird role for him, and his dumb picture in the background hanging up that he's employee of the month or manager of the month or whatever. What a goofy little thing. Anya says he had hair. Yeah, he did. It looked weird. That was probably part of why I didn't quite recognize him. He also looked thinner. So I think that was it, that he just looked a little bit like weedier to me. But yeah, so it winds up like, you know, in the end, not really like factoring into anything, but it's funny that he is there for this little moment. So Veronica is away doing all of this when Keith goes in to talk to Lamb because he's a good boy and he wants to know that Lamb is doing what he needs to do to figure out what was going on with that bus. And Keith is in the middle of trying to reason with Lamb when Lamb just drops it on him. Hey, we found your daughter's name written on the hand of a corpse. Did she tell you about that? And of course she has not. And Keith is like, what now? And he calls her up. Of course she lies about where she is because that is her MO. And convinces him by getting a bunch of paintings from around the hotel room and putting them on one wall and posing in front of it that she's at a museum. Bless her. She is ingenious. And finally winds up having to confess to him what happened because he's just like, can you tell me? And she explains about Aaron Eccles and the long haul and all of the weird suspicions that she has and feeling like probably everybody died because of her. And her dad is like, okay, you're going to need to come home like right now because I cannot handle all of this information with you being somewhere else. And then he, going off of his daughter's suspicions, goes and pays a visit to Aaron Eccles himself. Now, this scene is super fun and also really infuriating. It's really something to remember that these two, maybe this is the first time that they have been alone together since Aaron trapped Veronica in a refrigerator and lit it on fire. Like, their last encounter, the stakes could not have been higher, and he could not have been more of a bad guy. Like, that's a lot. And Keith comes in here, and Aaron has to be a smug little shit. And keeps needling him about how, like, Keith's acting like he's this white knight, and are you here to thank me because your pathetic book would never have sold if it wasn't for me? And I just want to break all of his fingers. I really hate him so much. And Keith keeps his composure, which is admirable, because I really think Keith could have beat the shit out of Aaron, and I don't think anybody really would have given a shit or done anything. Like, there are certain people who can commit these kinds of crimes and still weirdly have folks on their side, on the inside. But if you commit this sort of crime, it has to be like against somebody that society agrees doesn't matter. And he killed a rich white girl. That's pretty much the kiss of death. Like, there's nobody going to be on his side. And he was a rich guy, you know, like, he is a really good person to hate for everybody to be like 100% against. So I just don't think that if Keith decided that he wanted to take some of his frustrations out on Aaron's face, that anybody would have given a shit. And that's pretty much Keith's whole point. Because Aaron is over here cackling to himself about trying to poke and prod him. And Keith's like, I'm not here to, like, make a threat. It really, like, that's not it. I am here to show you how easy it was for me to be in a room alone with you and for the guard to leave. He's just like, it took nothing. They know me. They know what you did. And they're fine with me handling this however I feel like. And that does seem to shake Aaron a little bit, which is so great to see. I need Aaron to get shook a bit. God, it just is satisfying. I need it. You know, give it to me. So that whole scene is very satisfying. You know how I am, guys, with Keith. Keith is the daddy we all want, and like low-key also the husband that we all want in a lot of ways. A man who is very dedicated, who is willing to be ruthless when situation demands it, and who, can put the fear of God in people sometimes. It's attractive. I like it. So yeah, that was a good scene. And I have to admit, I cannot get a read from Aaron on whether or not he's guilty of setting this whole bombing up, but I don't think he is, because I feel like the way that he reacts is too, I don't know. He's an actor. So in some regards, I just feel like I can't trust anything about the way, like my interpretation of how he reacts, because that's what he does for a living. So he could do anything in this scene. And you could say that it was convincing because that's his job, is to be convincing. But there is something about the lack of panic, I guess. He just doesn't seem at all worried that Keith is on to him. That makes me think it can't be what it looks like. Because if he did plan to just take out Veronica via a bomb on a bus, I can't think that it's just out of wanting to take revenge on Veronica. It has to be a part of a bigger piece of the picture. And if it's part of something, I think he'd be a lot more panicked at Keith starting to figure it out this soon, because things are only just starting to get set into motion. Does that make sense? So, I don't know. I really couldn't get a good read on him. I don't know whether or not to believe this or not. It doesn't seem like it. And frankly, blowing up a whole bus of kids just because you want to kill one of them doesn't feel like the thing. But what do I know? My mind doesn't work like one of these psychopaths' minds works. So I could just be really bad at this. I also want to mention Weidman and Veronica working together to question the boyfriend that she had talked to earlier. He stuffs something in this kid's mouth and hangs him out the window. And Veronica is all hysterical. You told me you were just going to ask him some questions. You could kill him. And then later on in the hallway, they're talking and he's like, well, it was a pretty good hysterical routine you had down there. So obviously she knew exactly what he was going to do when they walked in there and was just pretending to be like the terrified bystander. And it's really, I always enjoy moments that get one over on the audience and then reveal a little bit later that you've been had. So yeah, that was an amusing little moment to me. I liked it. I just really if they're going to be working together from now on, I have to say I'm on board. It's okay if they diverge again and they have to do their own separate things because they've got very different interests, and that's fine. But I do like her having this sort of sidekick who is also, he is also good at what he does, but has very different resources available to him. I just am interested to see what kind of use he makes of her. So yeah, I don't really, I just want this to be a thing. I want this to go on into another episode. I mean, they didn't find the guy that was in that photo yet, so I assume that it will continue, but we'll see. So, okay, moving on a little bit here. Oh yeah, she's looking at the picture. She's been found, but thanks. Tell me she's not still with her boyfriend. The guy next to her in the picture? Yeah, he seems cool, but I've never seen a guy lie right to your face and you'd never guess. And Veronica sort of raises an eyebrow, but then when she talks to the dude at the hotel, he's the one that's like, oh yeah, it is that guy. I don't think that he had so much facial hair then, though. So she realizes that they're all talking about somebody else, which means that maybe she wasn't there as the boyfriend, or she wasn't there as the girlfriend to this other kid. He says that his hair when he came in was a lot shorter. Ooh, have we seen him before? Did he have a little beard thing right here? Do you remember his name? The killer, his name is Carlos Mercado. Some of the marked bills showed up and, oh, wait a second. She says that he's a diplomat's son. And that whole thing presents its own. I could be really off here, guys. Forgive me. I'm going to go back because I have these episodes like playing as I record on them. And I'm realizing now, is he the guy that came into the precinct and talked to Lamb? I'm going back. Let's see. Looks like it's going to stay that way. I have information about that Mexican kid. I don't think so. This guy looks way older. If he cut his hair, shaved his face, wore some glasses, maybe, but I don't think so. Never mind. I take it all back. I thought that I had made a connection. I lied. So Veronica has to, Anya says, yeah, they did. Weidman said he was at the Caesar Hotel in Vegas. Oh, it's after. Never mind. Oh, yeah, because he's about to go after the kid, but we don't actually, see that go down. But Veronica goes to visit Abel, who is really on his last legs. They say that he's got like a day or two at most. And she cannot bring herself to tell this guy that his daughter is dead after everything that he has gone through when he is about to die. There's just no point in breaking that kind of horrible, heartbreaking news when this man is about to leave this world. Like, why do that? I wholeheartedly, for the record, agree with her decision to lie. This is just, lying is not always a bad thing. It really isn't. There are times when I feel like it's the best possible means of dealing with a situation. And this is one of those instances where lying is the compassionate thing to do. Don't tell him the truth. So she, tells him that his daughter is trying to get here, but that she was in the Himalayas or something. She has to create a situation in which his daughter is unable to get back in time. So she puts her somewhere that she would have to get a chopper out and that the weather is too bad for them to land and take her. So that's what she tells him, is that she's trying to get here, but she has been having the time of her life and is doing really well. And I think she's happy. And it's awful to watch Veronica's face as she has to tell this bald-faced lie. But it's just really necessary. I really agree. So later on, we have the very last scene, which is Keith checking out the bus wreckage. And he's not supposed to be here. He's breaking the... whatever, this is evidence. I don't know the word. Tampering with evidence, maybe. And he's walking around trying to, notice anything when one of the security guards seems to hear and, come in. And he drops to the ground to cover his ass. And in doing so, spots a device that is underneath one of the seats, which he probably would not have spotted otherwise. It's sort of insane to me that they've had this bus in custody and they haven't discovered something in such an obvious place. It's right underneath a seat. This should be the first place that you would look. It's been a couple days, but I guess that is supposed to be part of... Oh no, it's not a device. Holy shit, guys. Do you know what? I'm only just seeing this now. It's like a dead ferret or something. Do you know, I totally, I think that the last, 2 times, because I've watched this episode, 3 times now, I think, because it's, been a while since the last one. I don't think I ever saw that it had a head and whiskers until just now. I thought it was just like weirdly lumpy because it had been underwater, but that's a dead animal. So that explains that stench that was happening in the back of the bus. Okay, so he sees that. I'm wondering if that is tied to anything or if that's just like, was that... is that just a prank that like Logan played? Or is that part of a bigger picture? Curious. Well, Anya's points out he's not even wearing gloves. Girl, you right. He's over here inspecting evidence and he isn't even covering his own ass. This is a bad idea, Keith. Come on. But I understand him feeling very frustrated with how Lamb is totally not handling shit. So that's the end of the episode, guys. I really hope that you've been enjoying the coverage. I'm super excited for next week for the live watch. And yeah, thank you again to Jacqui for commissioning this episode. And for all of you for bearing with me as I forget and remember excuse me, got the hiccups all of a sudden. As I forget and remember character names. Yeah, so everyone, hopefully you'll be able to join me for that live watch. The live watch itself, like I said, is on Tuesday the 9th. The actual recording for that will be the following Friday the 12th. And that's at 12:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. So, yeah, y'all, just get ready for that. All right, I will see you on the other side. Thank you all for being in the chat here and helping me out. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.